Before you lead anyone else, you must first lead yourself. Leadership is not a position, it's a responsibility, a discipline, a daily choice. In this world, titles are handed out easily, but true leadership is earned through character, courage, and consistency. The journey we're about to walk together is not just for CEO or managers. It's for every one of us who wants to make a lasting impact in our homes, in our workplaces, and in our communities. Today, I'm going to share with you timeless truths, not quick hacks, that will challenge the way you think about leadership forever. We're going deep into the heart of what it really means to lead. And I promise you, if you stay with me through this entire message, you won't just leave with motivation. You'll leave with a blueprint that can shape the next chapter of your life. Because real leadership isn't about power, it's about purpose. It's not about being followed, it's about being trusted. It's about learning, growing, and choosing every single day to be a leader worth following. So, buckle up, stay focused. This is not just another leadership talk. This is the kind of wisdom that can sharpen your mind, strengthen your heart, and prepare you to lead with confidence, no matter where life takes you. Let's dive in. Most people assume that leadership is something you're either born with or you're not, but the reality is far more empowering. Leadership is not an inherited gift reserved for a select few. It is a skill like any other that can be cultivated, refined, and strengthened over time. We often admire those who lead with confidence and clarity and believe they possess some natural quality that sets them apart. But beneath that confidence lies hours, months, even years of intentional practice, mistakes, learning, and growth. Leadership is not a title or a position, it is a mindset and a behavior that requires continual development. When you view leadership as a skill, you begin to understand that it demands study and attention. Like any craft, it requires knowledge, but more importantly, it demands the application of that knowledge in real-world situations. Leadership is forged in fires of experience, not in the comfort of theory. Every conversation, every conflict, every decision becomes an opportunity to practice and refine the skills of influence, vision, and service. It is through these repeated experiences that leaders learn how to listen more effectively, communicate more clearly, and inspire more authentically. Leadership involves a deep understanding of human behavior. You must learn how to navigate personalities, conflicts, and complex emotional dynamics. It is not enough to simply tell people what to do. You must learn how to create buy-in, how to motivate individuals toward a shared vision, and how to foster a sense of purpose in the work. People are doing this requires emotional intelligence, which is not innate but learned through intentional self-awareness, observation, and feedback. You become a better leader when you are willing to examine your blind spots, confront your weaknesses, and seek wisdom from others who have walked the path before you. Great leadership is also rooted in service. It is not about elevating oneself, but about elevating those you lead. This servant leadership mindset is counter to much of what society teaches, yet it is the foundation of influence that lasts. When you see leadership as a learned skill, you approach each day with humility, recognizing that every situation offers a lesson, whether in success or failure. Every challenge becomes a classroom where resilience, adaptability, and character are tested and shaped. This perspective removes the pressure to be perfect from the start and replaces it with the responsibility to be committed to the process. Leadership is not measured by how much you know at the beginning, but by how willing you are to keep learning along the way. Those who embrace leadership as a skill are constantly reading, observing, and seeking mentorship. They ask questions not because they are weak, but because they are wise enough to know they do not have all the answers. They stay curious, open, and engaged in their own development. The beauty of leadership as a learned skill is that It opens the door for anyone who desires to grow. Leaders are not born, they are made through discipline, reflection, and a relentless commitment to become better each day. It is a journey of becoming, not arriving, and the ones who succeed are those who never stop learning, never stop improving, and never stop leading themselves first. Before leading others, at the core of true leadership lies empathy, because leadership is not about authority or control. It is about understanding the people you lead. Leadership without empathy becomes cold, transactional, and ultimately ineffective, while empathy breathes life into leadership, allowing trust, loyalty, and deep connection to flourish. Many assume that leadership is primarily about vision and strategy, and while those are critical, they become empty without the emotional intelligence to see people not as resources, but as human beings with fears, hopes, challenges, and dreams. Empathy allows a leader to step outside of their own perspective and genuinely enter the experience of another. It requires listening not just to respond, but to understand, to hear not just the words being spoken, but the emotions and concerns beneath them. Empathy transforms the way leaders handle conflict. When a leader leads without empathy, conflicts often escalate because people feel unseen or misunderstood. But when a leader approaches conflict with empathy, they seek first to understand the root of the issue, the hurt behind the anger, the fear behind the defensiveness. This approach not only resolves issues more effectively, but strengthens the relationship in the process. People are far more likely to follow leaders who take the time to understand their point of view, even when disagreements remain. In moments of change or crisis, empathy becomes even more critical. People resist change not simply because they dislike the change itself, but because they fear what it means for them as individuals. Will they be secure in their roles? Will they be valued? Will they have the skills to adapt? An empathetic leader anticipates these fears and addresses them with honesty and compassion. They communicate in a way that reassures people of their value while inviting them into the process of transformation rather than forcing it upon them. Empathy is not softness. It requires strength to slow down, to listen fully, and to hold space for the emotions of others without rushing to fix or dismiss them. It requires the maturity to put aside one's own ego long enough to prioritize the well-being and growth of others. Empathetic leaders build cultures where people feel safe to speak up, safe to take risks, and safe to admit mistakes, because they know their leader will respond with understanding, not condemnation. This psychological safety fuels innovation, creativity, and collaboration, because people are not weighed down by fear. The practice of empathy also requires self-awareness. Leaders must first understand their own emotions, biases, and triggers to truly lead with empathy. When leaders are disconnected from their own emotional landscape, they struggle to be present for others. But when they cultivate self-awareness, they can recognize when their reactions are about their own insecurities rather than the situation at hand. This level of emotional clarity allows leaders to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, preserving trust and fostering stronger relationships. In the end, empathy is the bridge that connects vision to execution, because no leader accomplishes anything alone. People follow leaders they trust, and people trust leaders who care. Leadership with empathy is not about being liked, it is about being trusted, respected, and followed, not out of obligation, but out of genuine belief in the leader's heart and intention. It is this kind of leadership that builds organizations that endure, teams that thrive, and people who grow under the guidance of someone who truly sees them. Leadership demands courage, because every leader eventually faces decisions that test their character, their vision, and their willingness to stand firm in the face of discomfort. Making easy decisions does not define leadership. It is the hard decisions that reveal whether someone truly carries the weight of leadership with integrity. Hard decisions often come with no guarantees of immediate success or universal approval. They frequently involve risking popularity, challenging the status quo, or choosing what is right over what is convenient. Leaders who avoid hard decisions for fear of conflict or failure may maintain temporary comfort, but ultimately erode the trust and strength of the teams they lead. True leaders understand that leadership exists for the sake of others and not for personal security. This means putting the long-term health of the organization, the mission, and the people above their own comfort. Making hard decisions often means confronting difficult truths about what isn't working and being willing to change course when necessary, whether it's letting go of a team member who no longer aligns with the vision, cutting back on unsustainable initiatives, or choosing values over short-term profits. These decisions test the leader's commitment to their core principles. Courageous leadership also requires the willingness to face criticism, because no hard decision pleases everyone. Some will question your motives, others will doubt your competence, but a leader anchored in purpose does not make decisions based on approval. They make decisions based on conviction. They listen to wise counsel. They weigh the consequences. They gather facts. But at the end of the day, they take responsibility for choosing the path that best serves the mission, even when it comes at a personal cost. This is why leadership is never for the faint of heart. Another dimension of courage in leadership is the ability to say, "I don't know," or "I was wrong." Many falsely believe that leaders must always project certainty, but authentic leadership embraces vulnerability as a strength. Admitting uncertainty or mistakes does not diminish a leader's authority. It builds trust because it models humility and invites others into the problem-solving process. People respect leaders who are honest enough to acknowledge their limitations and courageous enough to seek better answers rather than pretend to have all of them. Leadership also demands the courage to hold others accountable. It is far easier to ignore poor performance or toxic behavior, but avoidance only delays the damage. Courageous leaders are willing to have the uncomfortable conversations, to address issues directly, but with compassion. They do not punish, but correct. They do not shame, but guide. They understand that accountability is an act of care because it protects the team's culture and helps individuals grow into their best potential. Courage in leadership ultimately shapes the culture of the entire organization. When leaders model bravery in their decisions, they give permission for others to step into discomfort, to take risks, to innovate, and to speak truth, even when it is difficult. This kind of culture fosters resilience, creativity, and shared ownership, because people know their leader is willing to stand in the hard places with them. Leadership that lacks courage produces organizations that fear change and hide from problems, but leadership rooted in courage creates environments where growth is constant and where people thrive even in uncertainty, because they trust their leader to navigate through complexity with conviction and strength. Leadership is not about control through fear, but about creating safety, because people do not give their best in environments where they feel threatened or constantly judged. Fear-driven leadership may produce short-term results, but it suffocates creativity, trust, and long-term growth. Real leaders understand that when people feel safe, they are more willing to take risks, share ideas, and own their responsibilities. Safety does not mean avoiding accountability, but it does mean establishing a culture where mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn rather than reasons for punishment. People thrive when they know that their leader sees them as human beings, not as cogs in a machine. When a leader creates safety, they invite openness. Team members feel comfortable bringing up concerns, admitting when they are struggling, or asking for help without fear of being belittled or dismissed. This kind of environment fosters stronger communication, which is the lifeblood of any healthy organization. When people trust that their leader will listen without immediate judgment, they are more likely to bring forward important information early before small issues become major crises. Open dialogue leads to better decisions because everyone feels empowered to contribute their perspective. Creating safety also builds loyalty. People are far more committed to leaders who genuinely care about their well-being, not just their performance. When employees feel safe emotionally, They experience less stress, which leads to better focus, greater innovation, and stronger collaboration. Teams that operate in safety outperform those driven by anxiety because people can fully engage without the mental weight of self-protection. Safety allows people to focus on the mission instead of spending their energy navigating politics or protecting themselves from blame. Leaders who create safety understand that their presence sets the emotional tone of the organization. When a leader reacts impulsively to bad news or failure, it sends a message that mistakes are dangerous. But when a leader responds with calm curiosity and a focus on solutions, it signals that learning is valued and growth is possible even in failure. This doesn't mean lowering standards, it means supporting people as they stretch and develop in their roles. Safety also allows difficult conversations to happen with honesty and grace. Leaders who create safety can give constructive feedback without damaging relationships because the foundation of trust is already strong. People know that correction comes from a desire to help them succeed, not to tear them down. This balance of care and challenge creates a culture where continuous improvement is not only expected but welcomed. When people feel safe, they also bring their full selves to the work. They are not hiding parts of who they are. They can contribute their unique strengths, perspectives, and creativity. This diversity of thought leads to better problem solving and richer collaboration because people are not afraid to think differently or challenge assumptions. Leaders who foster safety unleash the full potential of their teams because people do their best work when they feel seen, valued, and secure. Ultimately, leadership that creates safety produces organizations where people are motivated by purpose rather than fear. They don't just comply with orders. They engage with the mission because they trust their leader to have their back, even when challenges arise. These are the organizations that endure, that innovate, that build legacies, not because their people are afraid to fail, but because they feel empowered to succeed together under the steady guidance of a leader who understands the power of safety. Trust is not built in grand gestures or dramatic speeches, but in the small, consistent actions that leaders take every single day. Consistency is the quiet force that builds credibility and earns the loyalty of those who follow. A leader who is consistent in words, behavior, and values creates an environment where people know what to expect. This sense of predictability creates stability, which is essential for teams to thrive. When leaders are unpredictable or inconsistent, people feel insecure. They spend more time trying to read the leader's mood than focusing on their work. Inconsistency breeds anxiety and undermines confidence because people don't know where they stand or what matters most. When leaders consistently act with integrity, they reinforce the belief that values are not situational but foundational. Their team knows that the leader's decisions will be guided by principles, not by convenience or personal gain. This integrity becomes a compass for the entire organization, allowing others to align their actions with a clear and steady standard. Leaders who compromise their values for short-term advantage teach their teams that principles are negotiable, which slowly erodes the moral fabric of the organization. But those who consistently uphold their values, even when it costs them, set a powerful example that fosters respect and long-term trust. Consistency also shows up in how leaders treat people. When leaders are fair and even-handed in their treatment of team members, regardless of rank, personality, or personal relationship, they cultivate a culture of fairness and equity. People feel safe knowing that performance is measured by clear standards, not favoritism or politics. This fairness motivates people to give their best because they know their efforts will be recognized and their concerns will be heard. Consistency in communication is equally important. Leaders who regularly share information, updates, and expectations reduce confusion and foster alignment. When information flows inconsistently, rumors fill the gaps and trust diminishes. In times of crisis, consistency becomes even more critical. People naturally look to their leaders for stability when circumstances are uncertain. A leader's calm, steady presence provides reassurance that even though challenges exist, there is a path forward. Leaders who panic, blame, or shift their stance frequently create unnecessary chaos. but those who remain composed and consistent in their messaging help their teams navigate uncertainty with confidence. Consistency also applies to a leader's willingness to keep commitments. When leaders follow through on promises, whether large or small, they demonstrate reliability over time. These kept promises form a solid foundation of trust that is not easily shaken. Conversely, every broken promise, no matter how minor, chips away at credibility and sends a message that the leader's word cannot be counted on. Ultimately, consistency is the currency of trust. It is earned slowly and can be lost quickly, but leaders who practice daily consistency in character, communication, and decision making build deep reservoirs of trust that sustain their influence over the long haul. Trust formed through consistency enables teams to move faster, take greater risks, and achieve more because they are anchored by the reliability of leadership that does not waver with every change of circumstance or opinion. This steady hand allows people to focus on the mission, knowing they are supported by a leader whose actions match their words day after day without fail. Great leaders never stop learning because leadership is not a destination, but a continuous journey that demands growth. The world is constantly evolving, and with it the challenges and opportunities that leaders face. Staying still is not an option. Leaders who believe they have arrived quickly become irrelevant because they fail to adapt to new realities. The humility to remain a student, even at the highest levels of responsibility, is what separates good leaders from truly great ones. Lifelong learning keeps leaders sharp, adaptable, and capable of leading their people through change with confidence and wisdom. Learning for a leader takes many forms. It includes formal education, but goes far beyond classrooms. It's found in books, conversations, experiences, mistakes, and reflection. Great leaders seek wisdom from diverse sources. They listen to the insights of their team members, recognizing that leadership does not require having all the answers, but rather the ability to ask the right questions. When leaders cultivate curiosity, they remain open to new perspectives that challenge their assumptions. This openness allows them to make better decisions because they are not limited by their own blind spots or trapped by outdated thinking. Lifelong learning also builds resilience. The leader who is always growing becomes better equipped to face adversity because they have continually expanded their capacity to think critically, problem solve, and adapt. They are not easily shaken by setbacks because they have developed the skill of learning from failure rather than being defeated by it. Failure becomes a teacher rather than a threat, and each challenge becomes an opportunity to refine their leadership approach. Resilient leaders model this mindset for their teams, creating cultures where learning from mistakes is encouraged and growth is celebrated. Continuous learning also strengthens emotional intelligence. Leaders who grow in self-awareness, empathy, and relational skills create stronger teams. They understand how to motivate, communicate, and support others in ways that foster trust and engagement. As leaders grow personally, they deepen their ability to lead others effectively because they recognize that leadership is about serving people and helping them succeed. Learning to listen better, to handle conflict with grace, and to inspire others with clarity and purpose all come through ongoing development. The best leaders also recognize the importance of modeling lifelong learning to their teams. When people see their leaders reading, attending workshops, seeking feedback, and investing in personal development, they are inspired to do the same. This creates a culture of continuous improvement where everyone is encouraged to grow, innovate, and stretch beyond their comfort zones. Organizations led by learning leaders are more agile, creative, and capable of sustaining long-term success because they foster a shared commitment to progress. In the end, leadership is a responsibility that requires constant renewal. The world will not slow down, and neither can its leaders. The commitment to lifelong learning is not just about acquiring knowledge, but about staying relevant, wise, and deeply connected to the people and the mission. Leaders who embrace this mindset lead with humility, strength, and vision because they understand that every day presents a new opportunity to become better for the sake of those they serve. Here's your *** conclusion and thank you message *** for the entire speech. Leadership is not a gift we receive once. It's a skill we cultivate daily. It is the quiet consistency, the courageous choices, the creation of safety, the building of trust, the willingness to face hard truths, and the lifelong commitment to keep learning that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary leaders. You don't have to wait for permission to lead, and you don't need a title to begin. Leadership starts the moment you decide to serve others with integrity and vision. As you apply these principles, you will not only shape your future, you will shape the lives of those who walk alongside you. Leadership isn't about you, it's about the legacy you leave in the hearts of others. Lead with purpose, lead with courage, and never stop becoming the leader the world needs. Thank you for taking this time to invest in yourself and your leadership journey. Your willingness to grow is already setting you apart. I am honored to share this space with you today. If this message has inspired or challenged you, share it with someone who's ready to rise to the next level of leadership. Stay committed, stay humble, and stay hungry to grow. Your best leadership days are still ahead.